Good afternoon, everyone. This is the news with b.c.begley. I am your host. I'm sorry about the delay for earlier. It is October the 17th, Friday, 2025. The weekend's almost here. Love seeing everybody in chat. And here are your top news stories for today. Venezuela is mobilizing troops and a massive civilian militia along its Caribbean coast as President Nicolas Maduro vows to resist what he calls U.S. aggression amid the largest American military buildup in the region since the 1980s. State media portrays the United States as a predatory power seeking to seize Venezuela's oil, while propaganda footage shows citizens training and armed forces conducting drills. Despite the displays of strength, experts say Venezuela's military remains weak when compared to U.S. forces. The Pentagon has deployed warships, bombers, drones, and elite special operations units near Venezuelan territory, conducting strikes on suspected drug trafficking boats, the Wall Street Journal has reported. In response, Maduro has intensified recruitment efforts, including from indigenous communities, and aligned with Colombian armed groups to bolster internal control and deter unrest. Former National Security Advisor John Bolton has been indicted by a federal grand jury in Maryland on charges of improperly handling classified materials after leaving the Trump administration. The indictment includes 8 counts of transmitting national defense information and 10 counts of retaining it, alleging that Bolton shared top-secret material with unauthorized individuals and kept classified documents at his home. Bolton has denied wrongdoing, calling the case politically motivated retaliation by President Donald Trump, while his attorney said the materials were unclassified personal records already known to investigators. The Justice Department stated that Bolton faces up to 10 years per count, though sentencing would likely be less under federal guidelines, NBC News has reported. He is expected to surrender to authorities and appear in court in Maryland on Friday. A U.S. military drone strike on a suspected drug smuggling vessel in the Caribbean on Thursday left 2 to 3 survivors, this according to a U.S. official. The large vessel was operating in international waters when it was hit, leaving it partially submerged. Search and rescue efforts were launched, though it remains unclear if any survivors were recovered or the extent of their injuries. The strike marks the first known incident with survivors since the U.S. began its lethal campaign against drug boats last month, Fox News has reported. This was the 6th known strike in the escalating operation, part of President Trump's effort to dismantle transnational drug cartels by force. President Donald Trump is turning his attention to the Russia-Ukraine war after helping broker a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, hosting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House on Friday. The talks are expected to center on Ukraine's request for U.S.-made Tomahawk missiles, which could allow strikes deep inside Russia, a move Moscow has warned would dangerously escalate tensions. President Trump said he discussed the missile request with Russian President Vladimir Putin during a recent phone call, and plans to meet him again soon in Budapest for further talks. While Trump once vowed that he could quickly end the war, he has since admitted it's proving far more complex, even as he seeks new diplomatic avenues, ABC News has reported. Meanwhile, Russia has intensified attacks on Ukraine's infrastructure, and President Zelensky hopes the U.S.-led momentum for peace seen in the Middle East can help bring an end to the conflict in Europe. President Donald Trump announced that he and Russian President Vladimir Putin plan to meet in Budapest to discuss ending the Russia-Ukraine war, following what he described as a lengthy and frank 2.5-hour phone call with Putin. Trump did not specify a date for the summit, but said high-level U.S. and Russian advisors, led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, will meet next week to prepare. The Kremlin confirmed the call, saying both sides emphasized the desire for political and diplomatic solution to the conflict. President Trump said, quote, "Great progress was made," and credited First Lady Melania Trump's humanitarian efforts to reunite Ukrainian children with their families for helping improve dialogue with Moscow, CBS News has reported. The announcement came as Congress pushes forward with new bipartisan sanctions on Russia, signaling continued pressure on the Kremlin despite Trump's diplomatic outreach. During a heated debate on Wednesday night, New York City mayoral candidates Zoran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, and Curtis Sliwa clashed over experience and how they would handle relations with President Donald Trump. Cuomo emphasized his gubernatorial and federal experience, defending his record on laws, infrastructure, and the COVID-19 response, while Mamdani criticized Cuomo's handling of nursing homes during the pandemic and highlighted his legislative work for working-class New Yorkers. The candidates sparred over potential Trump interference, with Mamdani calling out Cuomo for not explicitly naming Trump in statements about politicized investigations, while Sliwa positioned himself as a pragmatic middle ground to protect federal funding. Cuomo also attacked Mamdani's lack of executive experience, saying that New York City's $115 billion budget and 300,000 employees require proven management skills, ABC News has reported. The debate underscored sharp contrast in experience, integrity, and strategy in dealing with Trump as New Yorkers consider their next mayor. Senator Tim Kaine is leading a bipartisan push to force a Senate vote to prevent President Trump from unilaterally waging war in Venezuela, amid U.S. military strikes in the Caribbean and planned CIA operations in the country. The resolution, co-sponsored by Senators Adam Schiff and Rand Paul, comes after Trump authorized a recent strike on an alleged drug boat and signaled potential land operations. Kaine and other lawmakers argued the administration has provided little evidence to justify these actions, which they see as illegal and unconstitutional, and stressed that Congress must exercise its constitutional war powers. Last week, a similar vote to limit Trump's war powers narrowly failed, with support from a few Republicans. And now Kaine hopes more GOP senators will back the new measure, NPR has reported. Since September, at least 5 U.S. strikes have killed 27 people in the Caribbean, though their identities remain unknown, highlighting growing concerns about secretive military actions. Admiral Alvin Halsey, the commander overseeing U.S. military operations in Latin America, including lethal strikes on alleged drug boats in the Caribbean, is retiring from the Navy on December the 12th, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced on Thursday. Halsey, who became commander of U.S. Southern Command in November of 2024 after serving as deputy commander, led a major military buildup in the region, with some 10,000 troops deployed and recent B-52 flights near Venezuela. Halsey thanked his colleagues and reflected on 37 years of service, emphasizing his commitment to defending the Constitution, ABC News has reported. Hegseth praised Halsey's leadership and operational record, highlighting his career from NROTC commissioning to leading carrier strike groups and international maritime security initiatives. An Illinois police officer, Radul Bajovic, who had been living in the United States illegally for over a decade, was arrested by immigration authorities under Operation Midway Blitz, which targets undocumented immigrants in sanctuary states. Bajovic, originally from Montenegro, had been working with the Hanover Park Police Department since January, presenting a work authorization card from U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services that allowed him to carry a firearm on duty, this according to local officials. Federal authorities said Bajovic entered on a tourist visa that expired back in 2015, making his continued residence illegal, while the village maintained he had been legally cleared to work and passed full background checks, including FBI and state records. Bajovic was on administrative leave pending an investigation, and the village stated that if his work authorization is confirmed, he will return back to duty, Fox News has reported. The case has sparked political tensions, with DHS officials criticizing Illinois' sanctuary policies, and Governor J.B. Pritzker denouncing federal enforcement actions as overreach. Senate Democrats blocked Republicans' 10th attempt to reopen the government, ensuring that the shutdown enters a third week as lawmakers prepare for a long weekend after just 3 days in session. Republicans, led by Senate Majority Leader John Thune, are pushing to pass the House-passed continuing resolution to fund the government until November the 21st, while Senate Democrats, led by Chuck Schumer, want to negotiate expiring Obamacare subsidies and involve President Trump directly. Talks between the parties have largely stalled, with some Republicans, like Senator Markwayne Mullin, saying negotiations are, quote, not really happening, and extensions of the subsidies before the November 1st open enrollment deadline appear unlikely. Procedural votes, including on the defense spending bill to fund military paychecks, are planned, but Democratic support remains uncertain, Fox News has reported. A few Democrats, John Fetterman, Catherine Cortez Masto, and Angus King, consistently voted with Republicans, emphasizing that reopening the government should come before addressing other policy issues. Okay, here's a look at the live weather radar from the National Weather Service. Apologize for my delay earlier today. I had a problem with one of the software programs we used to put the show together. But anyway, we're here. We were an hour late, but we're here for the last day of the week. We'll be back on Monday. But let's get right into the national weather forecast for today. A low pressure system over the Dakotas will move northeast into Ontario through Friday, leaving a lingering frontal boundary across the upper Midwest and western Great Lakes. A new low will form along this front over Wisconsin and Michigan Saturday into Sunday, bringing showers and thunderstorms from the mid-south to the Great Lakes, with 1 to 3 inches of rain possible in parts of Illinois and Indiana. The arc latex to western Kentucky faces a slight risk of severe storms, including damaging winds, large hail, and possible tornadoes, while the marginal risk extends across the Ohio Valley. Meanwhile, eastern U.S. will experience cool, crisp weather with frost and freeze advisories in parts of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. High winds are expected in northern Montana on Saturday night, and rain and mountain snow will return to Washington state, while the southwest and east coast remain dry under high pressure. Madagascar has sworn in Colonel Michael Randrianarina as president, following a military takeover after mass protest forced the former president, Andry Rajoelina, into exile. The High Constitutional Court formalized Randrianarina's appointment after Rajoelina was impeached for desertion, amid weeks of deadly demonstrations over power and water shortages that left 22 dead. Randrianarina vowed to reform governance, socio-economic systems, and electoral laws, and emphasized collaboration with youth-led protest movements that helped oust Rajoelina. Rajoelina fled the country to Dubai, while his supporters condemned the Constitutional Court's approval of the military takeover as illegal, Al Jazeera has reported. The transition places Madagascar among other former French colonies experiencing military rule since 2020, and international bodies, including the African Union, the SADC, and France, are calling for civilian involvement and a return to constitutional democracy. Taiwan has banned officials, students, and teachers from attending events in China marking the 80th anniversary of Taiwan's retrocession from Japan, accusing Beijing of twisting history to support its claims over the island. The handover in 1945 returned Taiwan from Japanese rule back to the Republic of China, which Taipei sees as a restoration, while Beijing presents it as evidence that Taiwan rightfully belongs to the People's Republic of China. Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council warned that Beijing's commemorations aim to undermine the ROC and annex Taiwan, and will instead mark the date with East Asia's largest Pride March. The government has also cautioned Taiwanese entertainers working in China to avoid amplifying Chinese state propaganda, amid investigations into at least 20 celebrities who shared pro-China content, The Independent has reported. While most countries do not formally recognize Taiwan, the U.S. remains a key supporter, pledging to help defend the island against military aggression from Beijing. A Polish court is reviewing whether to extradite a Ukrainian man, known only as Vladimir Z, back to Germany, where he is accused of involvement in the 2022 Nord Stream pipeline attacks. Arrested near Warsaw back on September 30th, the 46-year-old is alleged by German prosecutors to be a trained diver who helped place explosives on the pipelines. His lawyer denies any wrongdoing, and plans to argue that no Ukrainian should be charged for actions against Russia, while Poland's government, led by Prime Minister Donald Tusk, has indicated reluctance to extradite him, citing national interest and anti-Russian sentiment. The Nord Stream explosions in September of 2022 severely damaged both pipelines, heightening European energy tensions amid the Ukraine war, ABC News has reported. Vladimir Z is one of two Ukrainians Germany is seeking to extradite, and parallel cases, including one in Italy, are also under judicial review. Japan has recorded a record 7 deaths caused by bears this fiscal year, the Environment Ministry announced. Experts attribute the rise to food shortages such as acorns. Most of the victims have been elderly, and more than 100 others have been injured by bites or claw attacks. Recent fatalities include a man in his 70s found dead in Iwate on October the 8th, whose head and torso were separated, and other men in their 70s discovered in Iwate and Nagano, though causes of death for the latter still remain unconfirmed, CBS News has reported. The trend highlights growing human-wildlife conflicts in Japan's rural, aging communities. 4 people were killed in Nairobi after security forces fired shots and tear gas to disperse crowds at a stadium where opposition leader Raila Odinga lay in state. Odinga, a towering figure in Kenyan politics, who ran unsuccessfully for president 5 times and served as prime minister in 2008, died at the age of 80 while receiving medical treatment in India. Chaos erupted when mourners breached a stadium gate, prompting soldiers to fire into the air, followed by police tear gas to disperse thousands of supporters, leaving scores injured. Earlier, large crowds stormed Nairobi's international airport, briefly halting operations and disrupting a ceremony to receive Odinga's body with military honors, The Guardian has reported. Odinga was celebrated for his lifelong activism and fight for multi-party democracy, commanding passionate support, especially among a community in western Kenya. Yemen's Houthis announced the killing of their chief of staff, Mohammed Abd al-Karim al-Gamari, one of the group's top military leaders, saying he died, quote, while fulfilling his duties. Israel claimed responsibility, with Defense Minister Israel Katz confirming al-Gamari was targeted in an Israeli strike. The Houthis vowed retaliation, stating Israel will, quote, receive its deterrent punishment for its actions. The strike comes 6 days into a fragile U.S.-backed ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, amid ongoing Houthi drone and missile attacks against Israel in solidarity with Palestinians, Al Jazeera has reported. In response to Houthi attacks on Red Sea shipping lanes, the United States and the United Kingdom have also conducted strikes on Houthi sites inside of Yemen. Russia launched a massive attack on Ukraine's power grid, with hundreds of drones and missiles causing blackouts across 8 regions and damaging key energy infrastructure. President Vladimir Zelensky plans to meet President Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. to request more U.S. air defenses, long-range missiles, and joint drone production, while also pushing for tougher sanctions on Moscow. President Trump, after a call with Russia's President Vladimir Putin, said they would meet in Budapest to discuss ending the war, NBC News has reported. Ukraine has struck back at Russian oil facilities, but its forces face a challenging fight against a larger Russian army, especially from the air. Senate Majority Leader John Thune announced plans to advance a bipartisan bill imposing sanctions on Russia, saying the, quote, time has come, and aiming for action within 30 days. The move follows President Trump's recent call with Russian President Vladimir Putin, who agreed to meet him in Budapest just before Ukrainian President Zelensky's White House visit. The sanctions legislation, introduced by Senator Lindsey Graham back in April, has broad support in both the Senate and the House and aims to pressure Russia over its war in Ukraine. The bill includes a 500% tariff on goods from countries buying Russian energy, with provisions allowing the president to waive sanctions for national security reasons, CBS News has reported. Lawmakers have been addressing technical details and waiting for the White House's approval, though Trump has signaled timing concerns. A knife attack in Portugal on Wednesday morning left one American tourist dead and another seriously injured. The victims, a 35-year-old who died at the scene and a 33-year-old hospitalized in Lisbon, were attacked following a minor verbal dispute. Police arrested a 23-year-old suspect, who had retrieved a knife from his car and fled before being apprehended. The Portuguese judicial police described the altercation as, quote, trivial, CBS News has reported. Authorities have not yet released the identities of the victims. Uruguay's Senate has passed a law decriminalizing euthanasia, making it the first predominantly Catholic Latin American country to legalize the practice through legislation. The law allows seriously ill patients experiencing, quote, unbearable suffering to seek euthanasia performed by a healthcare professional, with no time limits or mandatory waiting periods, though mental competence must be confirmed by 2 doctors. The bill, supported by the ruling Broad Front Coalition, faced opposition mainly from the Catholic Church, but secularization has weakened resistance in the socially liberal nation. Uruguay already has a history of progressive reforms, having legalized recreational marijuana, same-sex marriage, and abortion in recent years, CBS News has reported. Unlike some other countries, the law does not permit euthanasia for minors or assisted dying where patients self-administer medication. Today is October 17th, 2025, and on this day in history, in the year 1931, Al Capone was convicted of tax evasion in the United States. In the year 1979, Mother Teresa was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. And in the year 1989, an earthquake struck the San Francisco Bay Area, killing 63 people. October the 17th is also National Pasta Day. Alright, it's 21 past the hour, and let's do a quick market update. The Nasdaq is up 0.12%, gold is down 2.84%, oil is down 0.90%, Bitcoin is down 1.58%, the Dow Jones is up 0.48%, and the S&P 500 is up 0.39%. Hey, real quick, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date on all of our news updates. And now let's get into the top U.S. national news stories of the day. President Donald Trump announced a deal with pharmaceutical company EMD Serono to lower the cost of fertility drugs in the United States, aiming to make IVF more affordable for millions of Americans. The agreement will provide discounts on drugs like Gonal-F with price reductions ranging from 42% to 79% depending on a patient's income, starting in early 2026. IVF cost in the United States can exceed $40,000 per successful pregnancy, with most families lacking employer coverage for these treatments. The deal is part of President Trump's broader push to expand IVF access, including a 2024 executive order targeting drug pricing parity with other countries, ABC News has reported. Additionally, major specialty pharmacies distributing the drugs, like CVS Specialty Pharmacy and Express Scripts Freedom Fertility Pharmacy, agreed to lower handling costs while maintaining access. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker reported $1.4 million in blackjack winnings from a Las Vegas casino in his latest tax filing. The governor, who is seeking a 3rd term and is on the 2028 presidential shortlist, said he won the money while on vacation with his wife and friends and plans to donate it to charity. Pritzker and his wife reported a total income of $10.6 million in 2024. Known for his interest in card games, he also founded a charity poker tournament, NBC News has reported. The disclosure comes as Pritzker increasingly takes a national stance as a critic of President Donald Trump, amid heightened immigration enforcement in the city of Chicago. Senate Democrats blocked a full-year $852 billion defense spending bill on Thursday, despite its strong bipartisan support in committee, as the government shutdown entered its 3rd week. The measure failed 50-44 after Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer insisted it should not advance without also considering the Labor, Health and Human Services appropriations bills. Republicans, including Senator Mitch McConnell and Senate Majority Leader John Thune, criticized Democrats for delaying a bill that provides pay and benefits for more than 1 million service members including a 3.8% pay raise. Some centrist Democrats and independents, such as Senators Angus King and Mark Warner, were undecided, awaiting clarity on whether the defense bill would be paired with other appropriations, The Hill has reported. The vote highlights ongoing partisan tensions on Capitol Hill, with Democrats emphasizing broader priorities like health care, housing, and safety alongside defense funding. House Republicans in competitive districts are largely rallying behind Speaker Mike Johnson's shutdown strategy, refusing to renegotiate their federal funding plan despite mounting criticism and a stalled government. 8 GOP lawmakers in vulnerable seats told Fox News Digital that they support Johnson's position, emphasizing a clean continuing resolution to fund programs through November the 21st, while keeping broader policy debates like health care separate. Several expressed frustration with Democrats for blocking the CR and attempting to attach policy conditions, calling it a dangerous precedent for governing. Some battleground Republicans, including Marjorie Taylor Greene and Kevin Kiley, voiced dissent over handling of Obamacare subsidies and the House being kept out of session, but most blamed Senate Democrats for the impasse, Fox News has reported. Overall, Republicans highlighted unity behind leadership, praised coordination between Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune, and stressed staying focused on constituent services rather than theoretical debates in Washington, D.C. Ace Frehley, the original lead guitarist and founding member of Kiss, has died at the age of 74 in Morristown, New Jersey, following a recent fall. Known as Space Ace or the Spaceman, Frehley captivated fans with his galactic makeup, smoking guitars, and pyrotechnic stage shows. He helped define Kiss's iconic 1970s era, influencing glam rock and hair metal bands, and was the first of the band's original lineup to pass away. Frehley also pursued solo projects and rejoined Kiss for reunions, earning a place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the original members in 2014, the AP has reported. Bandmates and fans celebrated his legacy, praising his musical contributions, showmanship, and lasting impact on rock and roll history. A third person, 19-year-old Javorick Whiting, has been arrested and charged with attempted murder in connection with an October 4th mass shooting in downtown Montgomery that left 2 dead and a dozen injured. Whiting was taken into custody on October the 16th and booked into the Montgomery County Detention Facility. He joins 2 other suspects, 19-year-old Dontavius McGee and an unnamed juvenile male, both charged with capital murder and multiple counts of assault. The shooting involved multiple gunmen firing into a crowded nightlife area, killing a teenager and a woman, USA Today has reported. Police said the investigation is ongoing and additional arrests are expected, urging anyone with information to come forward. The Department of Justice has charged Cameron Arnold and Zachary Evitz with providing material support to terrorists for their alleged roles in an attack on a Texas Prairieland detention center on July the 4th that left an officer shot. The 2 were previously arrested in July alongside 8 others on attempted murder and weapons charges. Authorities claim they are part of an Antifa cell responsible for planning and executing the attack, marking the first time Antifa-aligned individuals have faced federal terrorism charges. This, according to FBI Director Kash Patel. Both defendants' attorneys deny their clients were involved in a coordinated attack, with Evitt's lawyer asserting that he neither carried a firearm nor intended to harm anyone, USA Today has reported. The incident follows President Trump's designation of Antifa as a major terrorist organization, amid a broader crackdown on left-leaning groups. Richard Durr, 55 years old, is scheduled to be executed Friday in Arizona for the 1993 murders of 4 members of the Luna family in Phoenix. Durr pleaded guilty to killing Albert Luna Sr., Patricia Luna, and their 18-year-old daughter Rochelle and their 5-year-old son Damien, as an act of revenge over a past theft, committing the attacks with extreme violence. He has been in prison for over 29 years and chose not to seek clemency. If carried out, this will be Arizona's second execution of the year and the 39th in the United States nationwide, the AP has reported. Arizona's lethal injection procedures have faced scrutiny in the past, with prior pauses due to drug shortages and botched executions. The state has 108 prisoners currently on death row. John Bolton, former national security advisor to President Trump, surrendered Friday in Maryland after a federal grand jury indicted him on charges of mishandling classified information. He faces 8 counts of transmitting national defense information and 10 counts of unlawfully retaining it, allegedly sending top-secret documents via personal email or messaging apps and keeping sensitive materials at his home. Bolton denied wrongdoing, calling the charges politically motivated and part of Trump's efforts to retaliate against him. His attorney, Abby Lowe, stated that the alleged materials were unclassified personal records previously reviewed by the FBI, NBC News has reported. The case follows recent DOJ charges against other Trump critics, including James Comey and Letitia James, both of whom deny any wrongdoing. Okay, everybody, that is our show for today. I hope you all have enjoyed it. I can't wait for the weekend. I will see you guys Monday. I will see everybody on Monday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time for another episode of The News with BC. And until then, I hope everybody enjoys their weekend.